house just south of them was out on the corner. Used to be a little log house. That's the one I was born in. October the 24th, 1922. My mother was a little Danish woman. Came over here from Denmark, hitchhiked from Copenhagen to Fayette, Utah. What kind of hitchhiking they had in them days, I don't know. But just to sit around and listen to her tell stories about her trips and that is very interesting. My dad was born right here in Manti. His folks came from Denmark. He was very religious. Never smoked, never swore. Even when he got out of the hospital, all he'd do is say, "Consorn you." Church every Sunday. And us kids had to go to church every Sunday. My mother was just the opposite. I don't recall her going to church other than when you get babies named or something to a funeral. And she smoked. My dad knew she smoked. And he never said anything. He wouldn't buy her cigarettes, so she had to borrow one. Dad had 17, and my mother 13. Put them all together, that is 17. Rachel, Ralph, Hans, and Gretel, they're my half-brothers and half-sisters. And he seen a William Ted chasing Rachel round the bed. That's what we used to get teased at school. But there was Ted, William, Annie, Cena, then me, Thomas, Elva, Oda, Jack, and Ida. She died when she was 18 months old. And Arvid and Dewey. And Nils. But they had a hill up there that they used to go sleigh riding off of and anything. Now this is what my mom told me. My two older brothers, Ted and William, took me up there on that in a baby buggy. And turned me loose. Down that hill I went, rolling clear down to about 2 blocks down. My mother seen it, come running out there and stopped it. So I turned to one of them and I says, many years later, "Did you get scolding for that?" "Scolding? Hell, we got whipped."
I asked that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
In early 1942, with the Japanese in control of all the Philippines, the U.S. position in the Pacific was bleak indeed.
I went into the National Guard. Got on the train and went to San Luis Obispo. Oh, then we went on a field trip clear up into Cody, Washington, and Oregon, and on the way up there into there and come back. Hawaii. Got out on the water, come back to San Francisco, and then went out an island called Angel Island out of San Francisco, where Alcatraz is. That rock they call it. When he was on that Angel Island, you could look right over the rock, Alcatraz. Oh God, that's where I got all them shots. Oh, stick to. You don't only get one shot, you get a dozen of them. And two big old boys is up in front of us. We were standing back there talking. Look up there, and then, God, they just get up. The guy on each side of you with the needle. And not only one needle, they'd have 3 or 4 of them. Look up there and goes, whoop, whoop. Them big guys. Oh, Jesus. And New Guinea was, I don't know if that was the next stop or, that might have been 2 or 3 stops, but that was right next to Australia. Then I went from New Guinea to what they call New Britain. Load on boats and LSTs. God, just go from one island to another. Ended up in the Philippines. Thomas had come over. I got a letter from him, and he was on the same island. Lady. But he was on the same island. He told me where we was camped at and everything. So we had a different captain then. So I went to him and told him about my brother and that, and if I could go see him. I was motor sergeant by then. So I went up to see him. I was staff sergeant. And I had a little 32 caliber automatic. You just hold your hand or put in your pocket. That's the only gun I had. Hitchhiking clear up to where Thomas was. It took me about 3 nights and 2 days, or 2 days and 3 nights, I don't know, something like that. We got up there and they were sitting in Camp R&R, but they was in tents, in a rest camp. But so I stayed up there a week or 2 and come back, and Thomas says, "We don't hitchhike back. Get down here where they load all these planes, and take you right down there to that airport. We was camped right by it. 30 minutes, I was down in camp." A few days after I got out of the Army, I told Bruce, we started down north to Gunnison Reservoir. That's how Lee Island lived. And there them two was coming up the road. So I told Bruce, I'll pull down there alongside of him and stop. You jump out and open that door up, and you guide Merlene in here, in this front seat. Okay, so he did. That's the way I got going with Merlene. And she always told me I was stuck up, conceited, but I wasn't. So we would go riding around, went up the lake, sit there and tell stories, and do a little smeller. But she was scared of water. She wouldn't go out in the water. Just go out there and get her feet wet, and that was it. So I rolled my britches legs up, went running out there and grabbed her and way out of wind. I got some loving then. But then we just kept going together. God, that was that's just a few days after I got out of the Army. And anyway, we got going along enough, and I asked her to marry me, and she said she would. So I was hurt. Well, I had to go ask her dad for her hand in marriage. I went to him and says, Hillard, how'd you like to get rid of your daughter? That didn't go over too good. Was that a little better? I said I would like to marry her. How far were you going to take her? I said, well, I live there in Manti. It either be Manti or Sterling here. What kind of living you going to make? Well, to start off right now, I can't tell you, but right now I'm herding sheep. Yeah, God, I'm lucky. You're such a beautiful gal. Well, I had weak knees, don't get me wrong. And no thoughts of backing out. When she was just a baby, we moved out to Christiansburg, lived out there. And I don't know how it was, but that yard, one morning, got out clear full of big red chickens. And there's out there, then chicken gets after Lynn or something like that, and boy, that probably right after him. And we couldn't find her. Well, we get out there and holler and holler and holler. Finally, she took her head around the tractor tires, just laughing like hell. Then we moved from there into Manti. We didn't have the inside toilet. We had the old granny house, two-holer. I wasn't here. I was a herd, I guess. I'm home and Mama had to tell me. She had went out there and got after Bobby. She had all her clothes on and had dumped them down in that toilet. One of them holes. Mama grabbed her by the heels and hung her down there and got the clothes out. So, I don't know how, I'll bet it was funny, but I wasn't there to see it. Lynn had arthritis so bad up north, Joe, she's still a little girl. But you never heard her complain about it, never. It turned out to be that arthritis. They had to have her hands operated on and her feet. As far as that, her ear gave her a problem, a bad ear. And she had mastoid in her ear. And we had to take it out of that, and they just sliced that ear off and laid it back. Laid it forward, I guess, the way they saw it. I got in there and cleaned that out, and then they had the 2 or 3 operations like that, and then they put a plastic eardrum in there. And that's when that arthritis started showing up. She had her hands operated on. There's a slings put on each finger and everything like that. And she died awful young. She's one of the only one of my daughters that died. The only one of my daughters that I've lost. See. There's gotta be a fighting one. That little gal could fight, she didn't care who. Just one time she was right out in front of the house where the driveway come up into the lot, across the sidewalk, talking to her girlfriends and some neighbor boys there. They was up there just teasing. God, just drinker boys. But there's teasing the girls. And she'd haul off and hit one and they'd take off. So they started to walk away. And the girls did start to walk away. And here them boys come back, and I guess they decided they were really going to fight too. So they got into it, and Christy, she took on all three of them. Them other girls just stood back and watched. And anyway, the boys took off. Christy got out of there. She was a crying, but she had her black eye. That was just before we moved back here to Manti, to Utah. And, but there was a commercial with, I think it was Marlboro cigarettes. I went around saying, I'd rather fight than switch. She'd say that and then show her black eye on. And that's about the first thing she said to my mother when we got back here. My mother says, "Christy, what's the matter with your eye?" She pulled an empty pack of marbles and mine out of her pocket. "I'd rather fight than switch," she said. And I never put her up to any of that either. Marlene was a twin sister to Eileen. So if I got one thing for one of them, I had to get it for the other. Well, I bought them each a bicycle. And Eileen, she got hers going round and round in the backyard. And Marlene got on and followed her around and around in the backyard. Well, Eileen, she just took off and got on the driveway and went right out on into the street. Not Marlene. She couldn't make that bike straighten out, just round and round and round. I'm watching through the kitchen window. You could just see the disgusted look getting on her face, and all of a sudden she slammed that bike down and she fell down. Got out and she wheeled it out to the driveway and got on it, then she's all right. But I didn't even get out there when she was going round and round and turn her and go the other way with her. Make her go the other way. Pretty soon I'd look out there and she was going back the way she was to start with. There was just no change in her mind. But they could ride them bikes up and down that street. Same with roller skates. Eileen could take off with them and go, and I think Marlene should have had them skates on her hind end instead of their feet. I worked days, I come home one day and I could hear the noise. I walked in the house and there sat Mama. A high chair on each side of her, and she was just shoveling food into one mouth and then the other, and all three of them are bawling. She just couldn't feed them fast enough. She was a little shit. A lovely little shit. So I remember we all went up to 6 Mile. As the older days, she must have. She was walking all right, but walked all over up there, well, a little too much. I walked up the road a ways and had to go across a creek. So I put her on my shoulder. around my neck, and I'll bet you I carried her halfway all over 6 Mile. That's one of my fond memories of her. Another one, I bought a little Shetland, pretty little thing. Trying to find out it was a stud horse. Had never been broke. Just a little shit. So we went out to the pasture, and I had a little saddle and everything for it. I'd get on it, my feet just about touched the ground, and ride it around and that. So I was going to put her on it that had Bobby with, and her 2 kids. That Mike, he was the big one, he was riding. I said, no, this is Carol's horse, he's going to get on it first. Well, I had the water on the pasture, and it just flooded there. But down on the bottom of it, it just formed a great big pool. I was walking along there leading the horse, or the Shetland. Carol was riding on that saddle, just fell in this nest, and just be. All of a sudden, that little bugger took off, took the reins out of my hands, or maybe I gave her the reins, I don't know. But it was following me. But it took off, and something scared it. And man, I was looking at her hollering, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. She was just squealing, and her little legs are flopping, and get down into this water, the great big old shoo wave shot in the air, and she'd went off. Shaw also had new boots, new Levi's, everything. She come up there, plump, 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 her boots was dirt full of water. Hair straight up, oh man. Looked around for the other kids, and they were half a mile off, crawling under the gate to get out. I got a summons from the court one day down in California, and this boy that had come and lived with us, he more or less adopted us. He got tight enough to our kids some way, and he didn't have any home or anything, but we didn't know them. But anyway, when I found out what kind of life he'd been living, I told him he could stay with us till he got him a job and whatnot. Anyway, he took the girls to church one day, drove my car and took them to church down a block or two, and coming back, he got a ticket. They never told me anything about it. He told the girls that he beat the hell out of them if they said anything. So they never said anything. I get a ticket, a summons to go to court. I go to court, and there judge is sitting up there, and the cop over by the window. The judge called his name out. He says, well, Mr. Penn, if you have a parents or guardian or something, take it out. And I just stood up and I said, well, I'm neither a guardian or anything. But he has been living with me for the last 11 months, a year, or something like that. But I told him about this ticket. And the girls had told me afterwards, I asked them, he said that this cop was a half a block behind him. And Jim turned the car to come over to our place. And the cop pulled up right behind him. Gave him a ticket for failure to yield driveway. The judge, I says, and Jim's a young boy. I says, I was a boy and I was no angel. That them cops get a bunch on them to get on a boy that's been having a little problem or something. They can't leave that kids alone. They're always on top of that boy all the time. So that judge, he turned to that cop and said, do you think you have any policemen on there that be doing that? The copy says, well, we have a few rookies up there. It's going to happen. Judge says, well, that's all right. What about these, the rest of these? God, there's a stack there, a half a foot high. And, oh my God. How many of them, sir, is in this last year? And he says, well, I can go back 11 months, and this is the only one. I said, that'll prove something. And he says it does. He says, but the boy has to be reprimanded. So we'll put him in the La Habra County Jail, I think it was La Habra, for so many days. So I and Mom went over there to see him. I walked in there and said, Jim Penner in here? He said, you bet. Can we see him? Why, yeah. He said, right down that hallway there, and there's a cell there, it's open, just walk in. He should be in there. So we walked down there and looked in there. God, there was a set of bunks running down here, and Jim's laying up on the top bunk reading. And he said, he told me, he said, oh, Dad, God, Dad, if I knew it was this early good in jail, I'd been in here a long time ago. Losing Grandma, that was hard. One last thing I want to tell the world. Love everybody. You just got to take one day at a time, that's all you can do. That's all I've done all my life. You take it as it comes. I went into things that would scare you to death to stop and think about it afterwards, you know. But if this is the day, it's the day. No matter what I say, it can't do you a bit of good because you are going to live your own life. And live it the way you feel. There's only 3 of us left out of 17 of us. There's 3 boys. That one that's sitting right by me all the time, he's just younger than me. God, he's in trouble all the time. I always blamed him. That he was the instigator, you know. A lot of it he was. The only way I know how to explain it is I love them